As I glanced around the nearly bare room, I asked, "Are you ready to leave yet?" A sigh escaped from my companion. "Just waiting for the movers," they replied, a tinge of relief in their voice. "Honestly, I won't miss seeing you around, and the way you changed the locks as if I'd try to break in was a bit much." I had always been curious about why such extreme precautions were necessary, but now it seemed almost irrelevant. When I first met Kevin, he was a quiet man, always concerned about others' opinions. Post-marriage, he became the epitome of a henpecked spouse. A week after I settled into my new home, Kevin appeared desperate. "It's me, open up," he urged. I pretended not to recognize him, meeting his panic with feigned ignorance. "I'm Carol, a 34-year-old working part-time 4 days a week. It's been 3 years since Kevin and I tied the knot. We don't have children, but I believe we could still find happiness together. In our marriage's early days, we'd stay up late discussing our dreams for the future. Both of us were novices in love, cautious at first, but I thought there was genuine enjoyment in each other's company. Let's be that couple that grows old together," I suggested one night. "Yeah, I like that idea. Maybe, 3 kids? A boy and a girl?" "That's exactly what I was thinking," he agreed. These light-hearted exchanges were delightful to someone who had little interest in love or marriage. Meeting Kevin was unexpected. We met at a party I attended out of obligation, not enthusiasm. He seemed to be there under similar pretenses, and we bonded over our shared disinterest, gradually becoming friends. At the time, he was serious, a bit reserved but always kind to me, which I found quite charming. Then, unexpectedly, he proposed. "Carol, will you marry me? I want to make you happy." "What? But we're not even dating yet." "Right," he acknowledged, his proposal unwavering. His unexpected question didn't push me away. Instead, it made me consider the possibility of a life with him. "If you're okay with me, then yes, I accept." His joy was palpable, and in that moment, I remembered why life sometimes throws us these unforeseen fateful curves. When Kevin proposed, I wholeheartedly believed that marrying him would lead to a happy future. We rushed into marriage, tying the knot just 2 months after our first meeting. Given our limited experience in romance, our journey was clumsy at times, but that added to our adventure. However, about a month after we moved in together, I began to notice a stark difference between my expectations and the reality of our marriage. One day, Kevin approached me with a serious look, more intense than usual. "Carol, there's something I need to discuss," he said solemnly. I was taken aback when he asked me to consider quitting my job to become a homemaker. This request was unexpected. He had never expressed any dissatisfaction with my working before, and it marked the beginning of a confusing shift in his behavior. "Why would you ask that?" I questioned, puzzled by his sudden change. "When you work, it makes me feel unneeded," he confessed. "Did someone suggest that to you?" I asked, trying to understand his sudden insecurity. "No, but at my company, all the other men's wives stay at home. It's just how things are there," he explained. I had been clear from the start of our marriage that I intended to keep working, especially since saving money was crucial for our plans. Kevin's new insistence baffled me. "But we agreed I would continue working after we got married, didn't we?" I reminded him. "I know, but as my wife, I hoped you'd consider my feelings," he responded, his concern more about fitting social norms than our mutual happiness. "Why not just pretend I've quit? There's no need for me actually to leave my job," I suggested, expressing my reluctance to give up my career. However, Kevin seemed increasingly worried about how others perceived him. "If things don't change, I'll be ridiculed by my colleagues and bosses. I'm supposed to be the head of this household, aren't I? Please, just do as I ask," he pressed, unwilling to listen to my reasoning. "I can't make such a decision immediately. Let me think about it," I said, needing time to weigh my options. "All right, but please decide soon," he urged, his tone urgent. I knew I couldn't let this issue drag on, fearing what might follow if I didn't act decisively. Seeking advice, I turned to my boss, Madison. She had worked as an administrative assistant since high school and had faced a similar situation with a controlling ex-husband, eventually leading to her divorce. Now, she was a dedicated single mother and someone I greatly admired. That must have been tough, I mused, considering divorce as I reflected on her strength and resilience. Navigating the early days of our marriage, Kevin and I found ourselves at a complex juncture. It's tricky since we're newlyweds, I pondered, contemplating the implications of quitting my job. I haven't fully thought this through, but leaving my position will make it difficult to find a replacement. I shared my concerns with Madison, my boss, who had become a mentor to me. I don't plan to quit immediately, I explained. I'm looking for a way to keep working, if possible. Perhaps we could maintain my current part-time schedule for the time being. Switching to full-time might draw too much attention. That's a wise approach, Madison agreed, supportive of my decision to negotiate with Kevin. If he still objects, we could propose reducing my hours officially to part-time. That sounds like a sensible plan. Remember, you can always count on me for advice. I'm here to support you, Madison reassured me, offering a lifeline in the turbulent sea of my marital issues. Thank you, I appreciate your support, I replied, grateful for her guidance. Our conversation deepened, and I discovered that Madison's ex-husband had also changed drastically after their marriage, a situation eerily similar to mine. This revelation was eye-opening. I hadn't considered that some men might transform so completely after marriage, becoming almost unrecognizable from the person they once were. Viewing my circumstances through this lens, I wondered if I had been misled. Despite numerous discussions, Kevin and I were at an impasse. Isn't it a woman's role after marriage to support her husband and manage the household? He argued, clinging to outdated norms. What era are you living in? Nowadays, it's common for both spouses to work, I countered, shocked by his archaic views. Maybe for other couples, but we're different. You see that, don't you? He tried to persuade me. I understand where you're coming from, but I can't agree with it. I stood my ground, asking him to consider my perspective. Kevin persisted daily, pressuring me to quit my job. Despite his efforts, they fell short. I consulted with Madison and decided to resign officially. However, in reality, I continued working part-time 4 days a week. Thankfully, Madison was sympathetic to my situation and agreed to reduce my hours. I've resigned from my job at the company just as you wanted, I told Kevin, keeping up appearances. Really? Thank you. Now I can feel more secure about my position at work, he responded, relieved yet oblivious to the truth. By then, it was clear Kevin was primarily concerned with how others perceived him. His abrupt transformation left me bewildered. I chose to deceive him, continuing to work secretly in hopes of preserving our relationship and my independence. But I soon realized that my hopes for a fresh start were misplaced. Despite our new beginning, Kevin continued to exert his dominance and vent his frustrations on me. One day, he sprung a sudden request on me. A junior colleague is coming over today. I need you to host, he said abruptly. I had no idea, I responded, caught off guard. Sorry, it was a last-minute decision. Just keep it simple, please. Get everything ready. Before I could say another word, he hung up. Determined to fulfill the request, I prepared drinks and snacks for the guests. However, when Kevin arrived, he was displeased. Didn't I ask you to prepare for today? He chided. You mentioned just keeping it basic, and you took that literally. This reflects poorly on me. I need you to fulfill your role as a wife properly. What exactly does that mean? I did my best. Is there an issue with what I prepared? I asked, genuinely confused by his dissatisfaction. No, not really, he muttered, his expression unreadable, a stark contrast to the person I once knew. From then on, Kevin began inviting guests over almost every week. While he reveled in the social gatherings, he expected me to be on standby, prepared for anything. It seemed he was trying to impress everyone with his capabilities as a husband. Kevin, Having guests over every week seems excessive, I ventured one day. No, it's fine. Everyone enjoys it, and you should support my decisions. It's your duty as my wife, Carol. But maintaining such a lifestyle was also expensive. How exactly am I supposed to manage it? I asked. Oh, stop complaining. He would dismiss any question I had as nagging and avoided giving a direct answer. Every morning, I woke up early to prepare meals, make lunch sandwiches, and see Kevin off, all while keeping his suit ready for the day. On days I worked part-time from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., there was barely any time to rest. Despite the busyness, I cherished my job. Working often felt like a welcome respite. Carol, you seem tired lately. Are you okay? My coworker Deborah asked one day, noticing my fatigue. Yeah, a bit, actually, I admitted. Let me know if there's anything I can do. I'm here to help in any way I can. Thank you, Deborah. You've been such a reliable support. Unlike Kevin, Deborah understood the deterioration in how I was being treated. She was aware of my secret part-time job and had kept it hidden from Kevin. I appreciate everything, Deborah. I expressed my gratitude. Bill mentioned it, but I never imagined Kevin would behave like this, she confessed. Neither did I. I've tried talking to him, but he won't listen, and we can hardly have a meaningful conversation anymore. I'm sorry, if only I were stronger, I sighed, feeling overwhelmed. Don't be too hard on yourself. You're managing work and household tasks admirably. I appreciate all your help. I'm glad to hear that, I replied, grateful for her kindness. Living with Deborah's support had been nothing but a positive experience for me, a stark contrast to the strain at home. However, Kevin seemed uncomfortable with how close Deborah and I had become. This discomfort led him to make a shocking and sudden decision. Where's Deborah? Mom's gone, I questioned, puzzled by her absence. What do you mean gone? I asked, my confusion growing. Mom's getting older, and I thought it would be best for her to be in a facility, he replied nonchalantly. You actually placed her in a home? My voice cracked, barely hiding my disbelief. Yeah, just finished settling her into the new place. Now I have the house to myself, he stated as if he had just completed a routine chore. I was at my parents' home when this happened, and the fact that he unilaterally decided to place his mother in a facility shocked me. She was older, yes, but not to the extent that she required full-time care. It became clear to me that he had sent Deborah away to have the house to himself. When I visited Deborah at the facility, she looked surprised yet resigned. I'm sorry it had to come to this, I apologized. No, it's not your fault, Deborah reassured me. I never expected him to go to such lengths. I'm afraid of what he might do if I resist. I'll miss you, but I'll manage. If you need anything, you're always welcome here, she added, trying to offer some comfort. Thank you, I replied, feeling the weight of the situation. Afterward, we moved from our previous home into my in-laws' house. Despite managing the household diligently, Kevin never acknowledged my efforts or showed any gratitude. The idea of having children, once a topic of eager discussion, now seemed completely out of reach. Kevin often disregarded me, preferring to spend his time away from home. Additionally, he began imposing arbitrary rules. No matter how late he returned, I was required to stay awake until his arrival. If I happened to wake up later than him in the morning, he would become upset. What time will you be home today? I asked one evening. I'm not sure. Just stay up until I get back, okay? He instructed. One day, after a similar exchange, when Kevin returned home, I noticed something unusual. As I took his suit to hang it up, the air was fragrant, a sweet feminine scent that was unfamiliar to me, as I didn't wear perfume. It was unmistakable evidence of an affair. Whenever he came home late, I would catch whiffs of the same perfume. That day, he unusually suggested I go to bed before him, raising my suspicions even further. Quietly, I went to the living room and overheard their conversation. Oh, she's clueless. When are you going to leave her? A woman's voice asked. I'll kick her out soon enough, Kevin's voice responded clearly. Their voices carried easily, especially the woman's. which was quite loud. From their discussion, it was evident that their relationship had been ongoing for some time. While the incident with the perfume didn't shock me, it left me feeling utterly disgusted. Kevin was still technically my husband, and despite my hopes for a turnaround, his treatment of me remained harsh and unchanging. As we approached the 3-year mark of our marriage, he sprung another surprise. "I have a business trip the day after tomorrow. I need you to get everything ready," he announced abruptly. "That's very short notice," I replied, the timing and suddenness raising my suspicions. "I'll be away for about 4 days. Please make sure my clothes are prepared." I couldn't help but suspect his claim of a business trip was a cover for time spent with his mistress. I remembered a conversation with a colleague's wife at a company gathering who had warned me, "Be cautious if he suddenly mentions a business trip. Our company doesn't even have those." Her words echoed in my mind as I pieced things together. My suspicions had been confirmed earlier when I found a chat on his mobile phone, accidentally left in the living room, detailing how he had taken paid leave for this so-called trip. This discovery marked a turning point for me and signaled the beginning of the end of our marriage. Armed with proof of his affair, I prepared to confront him with divorce papers upon his return. However, it was Kevin who made the first move. "Are you ready to leave? The movers will be here soon," he said coldly as soon as he returned home. He instructed me to vacate the house before he got back. "I need you to be gone before I get back," he demanded. "Why are you saying this all of a sudden?" I countered, shocked by his blunt directive. "That's exactly what I said. You can't spring this on me and expect me to leave immediately. Then I'll wait a bit but start preparing to leave," he replied, dismissing my objections. "Goodbye." I never imagined that my once timid, overly concerned husband would transform into such a domineering partner. But this was the final straw. The future I once envisioned with him now felt like a distant memory. Living with such a man, I couldn't envision a bright future ahead. What comes next? I wondered aloud. This could get interesting. Has the mover arrived yet? "No need to rush. They should be here soon," came the reply. "Oh, and I almost forgot to mention I'm changing the locks on the house," he added almost casually. "All right, got it," I responded, my heart sinking. "The thought of not having to see your face again is a relief," were his parting words after nearly 3 years of marriage. Convinced our relationship was irreversibly over, I swiftly left the premises soon after. I instructed my lawyer to file for divorce. Despite our circumstances, my husband boldly posted pictures with his mistress on social media, an act of brazen audacity. How could he be so reckless, not realizing he was providing even more evidence of his affair? Even our mutual friends noticed his strange behavior, marking the public unraveling of what we once shared. After leaving my in-laws' home, I transitioned back to full-time work and moved into a high-rise apartment in the suburbs, a place I had long dreamed of living. The apartment was spacious, ideal for one, and felt wonderfully liberating without Kevin's presence. About a month after settling in, I was jolted one morning by the doorbell. Peering through the monitor, I was stunned to see Kevin standing outside. "Hey, it's me, Kevin. Open up, Carol," he called out, his voice presumptuous and demanding. His sudden appearance and the entitlement in his tone were beyond my comprehension. Deciding to feign ignorance, I thought it might be more amusing than outright rejecting him. Who are you? I'm sorry, but I don't know you," I responded through the intercom. "Don't tell me you've forgotten your husband's face. I'm not married. I think you've mistaken me for someone else," I continued, watching as desperation seemed to wash over him, his face a shadow of the timid man I once knew. "Please, just listen. I've been deceived and I need Carol's help," he pleaded. "I'm sorry, but I'm not obligated to assist you. If you persist, I'll have to call the police. Seriously, after all, I don't know you," I retorted, steadfast in my resolve to treat him as a stranger. Kevin must have thought I would always be there to solve his problems, but I was no longer the person who tolerated such dependency. Yet, he remained stubborn, unwilling to relent. "That's it. You made this mess, so it's up to you to fix it. You don't have to be so tough on me," he whimpered. "Oh, and by the way, you can't stay at your parents' place anymore," he added abruptly. "What do you mean? Do you know whose name the house is under?" I questioned, surprised by his statement. "No, but it used to belong to Deborah. Now it's in my name," I explained, revealing a significant change he was unaware of. Kevin had insisted I leave when I confided in Deborah, which visibly upset and disappointed her. "I can't believe my son has turned out like this. I'm truly sorry, especially after all the help you've given us," Deborah had said during one of our conversations. "Deborah, you're divorcing Kevin, aren't you?" she had asked. "Yes, it's for the best," I confirmed. "In that case, I'll transfer the house to you," she offered, making a decision that took both me and presumably Kevin by surprise. Why would Deborah transfer their rights to their in-laws' house to me? Kevin would have been puzzled by such a turn of events. Unbeknownst to him, he had been living with his mistress throughout all this turmoil. "That's the situation. Understand and leave promptly," I concluded, shutting down any further attempts at reconciliation or intrusion into my life. We likely won't cross paths again, but I made it clear to him if he persisted, I would not hesitate to call the police. With that firm warning, he finally relented and left. The divorce proceeded as planned, and I received the settlement we agreed upon. As it turned out, Kevin had been misled and financially exploited by his mistress. Moreover, the divorce settlement amounted to approximately $410,000. His mistress had promptly abandoned him when the money dried up, but I was resolved not to let matters end there. I hired both a lawyer and a detective to ensure that all financial claims against him were thoroughly pursued. Additionally, I was seeking a further divorce settlement claim which looked to secure over $22,000 more. Furthermore, the ownership of the house was officially transferred to me. I had insisted that Kevin vacate the premises, and though he initially resisted, legal proceedings left him with no choice but to comply. As for his current whereabouts, I remained blissfully unaware and frankly uninterested. His company eventually caught wind of the photos he had posted with his mistress on social media. Unable to endure the scrutiny and his past facade of an extravagant lifestyle, Kevin chose to resign voluntarily. This outcome seemed inevitable, given his true character. If I had one last thing to say about the entire ordeal, it would be this: I don't dwell on it. I am divorced now, but I view it as a learning opportunity, an opening to move forward positively. My bond with Deborah endures, and I intend to focus on my career independently and relish life as a single individual, embracing all the freedom and opportunities it offers.
"How could you say such horrible things about me?" I demanded, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and disbelief. "I'm not a parasite. You know that. I've been supporting you and your mother for almost a year." Joaquin shrugged, his casual demeanor only fanning the flames of my frustration. "It's not a big deal," he said with a dismissive shrug. "That's just how things are in my family. You know, machismo and all." "Machismo?" I shot back, disbelief and anger warring in my voice. "Don't you dare use that as an excuse. This isn't just some outdated tradition. This is my life you're tearing apart." My husband waved me off, heading to the bedroom as if nothing had happened. "You're being dramatic. Just drop it, Alexis," he concluded. As I sat alone in the dark, his words echoing cruelly in my mind, I realized this wasn't just a bad evening, it was a turning point. And tomorrow, I would make the decision that would change everything. I'm Alexis. My marriage to my husband, Joaquin, was relatively recent, but unfortunately, it didn't last long. In hindsight, I consider it a blessing in disguise as I discovered his true nature. I crave love, and Joaquin seemed to understand that, showering me with affection. Both of us had stable jobs, leading us to decide on marriage approximately 4 years into our relationship. Admittedly, it was a rushed decision, and little did I know about the facade of Joaquin's love. Shortly after our marriage, Joaquin revealed a shocking truth. He confessed to hiding that he had lost his job just before we married. This revelation left me bewildered and scared. "I was ashamed," he said. "I feared disappointing you. In my family, Men who can't provide are looked down upon. Despite my disappointment, I supported him as he searched for a new job. However, as time passed, Joaquin made no effort to find employment, even 11 months into our marriage. Adding to my challenges, I found myself financially supporting his mother, Joanne, with a monthly allowance. Joanne, a difficult woman, treated me poorly, branding me a gold digger publicly and humiliating me at every opportunity. What made matters worse was Joaquin's lack of intervention, leaving it to his sister Margaret to stand up for me. In a private conversation, Margaret expressed her concern. "Alexis," she said, "I know my family can be difficult, and to be honest, they might never fully appreciate you simply because you're a woman. I've been through this myself." Her words resonated deeply. Margaret's advice became a turning point for me, prompting me to reassess my situation. I had a well-established career, yet my mother constantly criticized Joaquin simply because he's a man. Margaret's words struck a chord with me, as Joanne consistently demeaned women while lavishing her son with praise. I had often wondered how she would react when she learned that I was the one covering her expenses. Back then, I could never have anticipated witnessing her first-hand reaction and discovering the true nature of Joaquin. It all unfolded during a family dinner to which I was invited. The atmosphere was lively, with many people from Joaquin's side present. However, my husband's actions left me utterly speechless. He proudly proclaimed, "I am the family's breadwinner." I could have accepted that, but he didn't stop there. Instead, he mocked and fabricated lies about me, saying, "Alexis earns very little, and I have to cover all her luxuries." The room echoed with laughter as he painted me as a gold digger. Joanne seized the opportunity to affirm her disdain. "I knew it. I've always been right about Alexis," she declared. "She's just a freeloader. I'm grateful that my hard work allows me to support her, even if it's a bit of a burden. She can't manage her expenses, and without me, she'd be destitute." Joaquin went on, his tone laced with pompous pride. Joanne chimed in again. "Exactly. She's just like a pet, completely dependent on her husband. Women should naturally be taken care of by men." Their words stung deeply. While I had always known about Joanne's animosity, Joaquin's betrayal was a profound shock. I couldn't fathom that he would fabricate such lies and perpetuate such harmful stereotypes about me. Seeing me on the verge of tears, Margaret stepped in decisively. "Enough," she snapped, turning to Joaquin and Joanne. "You're both being unnecessarily cruel to Alexis. She's an incredible person and a hard-working woman. She doesn't deserve your awful words. You owe her an apology." "Why should we apologize? We're just being honest," Joaquin scoffed. "If anyone should apologize, it's Alexis for being a parasite in this family," Joanne added. Margaret, her voice trembling with frustration, said, "Do you hear yourselves? You mock her for no reason. Joaquin, how can you just stand by and let Mom belittle her? You both owe her everything, but instead, you humiliate her publicly." Her words left a profound impact on me. Meanwhile, my initial hurt simmered into seething anger. I had spent so much of my time and money caring for them, yet I barely recognized the man Joaquin had become. Holding back the urge to confront them on the spot, I endured Joaquin and Joanne's cutting remarks until I couldn't take it anymore. Claiming a headache, I made an early exit from the family dinner, much to Joaquin's visible annoyance. Once we were home, I finally let my frustration boil over, confronting Joaquin directly. "Why would you say such horrible things about me?" I demanded. "I am not a parasite, and you know that. I've been supporting you and your mother for almost a year." Joaquin shrugged dismissively. "It's not a big deal," he said, brushing it off. "That's just how things are in my family, you know, machismo and all." His casual dismissal only fueled my anger further. That evening, I realized I couldn't keep living this way. I needed to make serious changes. Joaquin and Joanne had shown their true colors, and I could no longer ignore the toxic reality of our marriage. To Joaquin, appearances were everything. He believed it would look bad if people knew the truth about our situation. After Joaquin lost his job, instead of addressing his own struggles, he turned on me, labeling me a parasite. Rather than fabricating a story to protect his image, he took the crueler path, humiliating me in front of our family to boost his ego. How do you justify this, Joaquin? Explain yourself, I demanded, my voice shaking with anger and pain. You're being overly dramatic today, Alexis. Learn to let things go. You're spoiling all my fun. Now calm down and go back to sleep. It's been a long evening, Joaquin dismissed, attempting to trivialize the situation. No, absolutely not. I won't pretend I was okay with what you did today. Did you even hear what your mother said? Instead of defending me, you joined Joanne in humiliating me even more, I protested, refusing to back down. Leave my mother out of this, Alexis. You're the one who can't take some jokes and harmless teasing. You're simply blaming us for your insecurities. Let's go to bed. You have to work tomorrow. I have the luxury to stay at home and waste time, Joaquin remarked, casually heading to the bedroom to sleep. Stunned by his nonchalant dismissal of my feelings, I realized he couldn't understand why I was reacting this way. That night, I stayed on the couch reflecting on everything. It became clear that I had been a fool. Joaquin and his mother were using me to fund their lives without any genuine feelings. Joaquin's attitude further revealed that he was exploiting me, and our marriage had become financially abusive. I knew I needed to get out. The next day, Joaquin acted as if nothing had happened, conveniently forgetting his insulting remarks. When I tried to discuss it again, he repeatedly shut me down. Frustrated, I realized it was time to make a decision. Before doing anything, I reached out to Margaret, expressing gratitude for being the only one who stood up for me, even if it was a feeble attempt. Joaquin and Mom can be quite ruthless when they decide to act, and it was certainly inappropriate for my brother to manipulate you in that manner, just because he's perceived as the breadwinner, my sister-in-law sympathized. About that, Margaret, I confided. He has been deceiving everyone. He hasn't been the breadwinner for almost a year, having left his job, a fact he hasn't disclosed to anyone. Surprisingly, even his mother didn't know about this. Joanne had no idea that it wasn't her son providing her allowance. It was me giving her the money. My husband wouldn't compromise his macho image, not even with his mother, so he's been dishonest with her too. I can't fathom dealing with these people, and for you, Margaret, it must be incredibly challenging. I've reached my limit as the ATM for Joaquin and Joanne, I complained. I've come to realize that Joaquin married me solely for financial gain, knowing I craved love and would comply with his wishes, I continued. Thankfully, I uncovered his true motives before wasting more years on him. Margaret, I've had enough and am planning to take action. I confided in you because I believe you can support me. Alexis, I understand what you're going through, Margaret said gently. I've been through years of struggle myself. Tell me your plans, and I'll do everything I can to help. I informed Margaret about my intentions. I aimed to teach Joaquin and Joanne a lesson for their regressive views on women and make them understand they couldn't exploit others at will. Together, Margaret and I devised a plan and set it in motion. I consulted with a lawyer, addressing certain matters, and decided to wait a week before initiating the first part of my plan. Once the week elapsed, I was ready to confront Joaquin. Just 11 months into our marriage, I sat him down and disclosed a crucial matter. Joaquin, I need you to listen and be patient, I urged, but he dismissed it as another trivial issue. Alexis, drop the matter and stop being dramatic. I can't stand dramatic women, he snapped. Frustrated, I delivered the news to Joaquin. You no longer have to be with me because I have filed for the annulment of our marriage. He was taken aback and thought I was joking. Why would you do that? What's your reason? He asked, stunned. You lied about being employed and manipulated me into supporting your freeloading lifestyle, I explained. When I attempt to communicate with you, I realize that you no longer care about my feelings. Moreover, you did nothing to shield me from your mother. Those were not just minor inconveniences, Joaquin. They were significant betrayals, I said firmly. However, we don't need to pursue an annulment solely based on that, he tried to argue. Well, what's your plan, Joaquin? Do you intend to keep me in limbo for a few more years until you're ready to claim alimony? Well, those plans won't work anymore, I concluded. I see through your facade, Joaquin. You used me to support both your life and your mother's, giving me nothing but insults and shame in return, I added angrily. As he looked at my enraged expression, he began to apologize. finally realizing that I was not the doormat he once imagined. I am a woman who knows how to stand up for herself. The moment he heard the word annulment, he realized his personal ATM was about to break free. He began pleading with me, completely unaware of what I had prepared for him, but I stood my ground. He begged me not to destroy everything, claiming we were once happy together. But I saw this as far more than just a mistake. For days, I had tried to discuss his actions with him, but he either ignored me or became furious every time I brought it up. Not once did he apologize for his behavior, and our once good relationship deteriorated when he deceived me into supporting both him and his mother. I don't need your fake apologies, Joaquin. I'm done with you, and I'm moving forward after our annulment, I said firmly. And there's one more thing I forgot to mention. I pulled out a stack of documents and handed them to him. As he began reading, shock spread across his face. Yes, Joaquin, I explained. These documents aren't just about the annulment of our marriage. They also include your eviction notice. Since I've already informed you about the annulment, I thought it appropriate to provide the eviction papers as well. You can't kick me out, he exclaimed in a panic. I'm your husband. But where's your attention, Joaquin? I replied sharply. I've already made it clear that I filed for an annulment. You won't be my husband for much longer. And yes, I am absolutely asking you to leave. He sighed deeply, looking defeated. I have nowhere else to go. I can't tell my mom I lost my job. That's out of the question, he muttered in frustration. And yet, you had no problem lying about your job to Joanne, did you? I countered. I'm sure you'll figure something out. Come up with a plan, use your tricks, whatever it takes. As for your mother, she's not getting any more financial support from me. However, in a gesture of generosity, I'm giving you until the end of the month to sort things out. I made my position clear and left Joaquin to deal with the situation on his own. Anticipating his call to Margaret for assistance, we'd orchestrated the plan such that she would staunchly refuse any aid. Having endured enough humiliation, Margaret was eager to sever ties and willingly participated in my scheme. Throughout the next month, Joaquin attempted every conceivable gesture to change my stance, adopting a romantic demeanor and showering me with affection. He even purchased gifts using the last allowance I provided. I simply left them in the main bedroom and retired to the guest room. Granting him the main bedroom was my parting gesture, knowing he'd likely be facing the cold streets soon. He remained convinced I wouldn't evict him. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law remained oblivious to the unfolding events. When the month concluded and she didn't receive her allowance, she stormed into my house. Why are you intentionally withholding money from me? My mother-in-law demanded angrily, her tone sharp and her eyes blazing with fury. I've already told you, Joaquin's financial decisions are his responsibility, I replied calmly but firmly. Joaquin has been telling everyone that you depend on him, she shouted, her voice growing louder. He claimed you've been draining his accounts and even eyeing my money. I met her gaze, keeping my composure. That money was never yours to begin with, Joanne. And as for Joaquin, he lied. Her face twisted with disdain. Lied? Who's going to believe that? How are you going to convince anyone that he isn't the successful man providing for his family? No one will believe you. I exhaled and replied firmly. Joaquin is unemployed. I've been the one supporting this family all along. He's just been pretending to be the provider to save face. She waved her hand dismissively, as if my words meant nothing. Nonsense, that's impossible, she hissed. At that moment, Joaquin entered the room. Joanne immediately turned on him, her voice cutting. Tell her you're the one supporting this household, that you're the one providing. Joaquin paled and looked away, his silence deafening. Joanne's frustration erupted. Say something, Joaquin. Why are you just standing there? His mother demanded. Finally, he mumbled, barely audible. It's her. What? Joanne stared at him in disbelief. Joaquin took a deep breath, looked up, and said quietly but clearly, She's the one who has been supporting us all along. Joanne froze, her expression a mixture of shock and anger. You couldn't have depended on a woman. This has to be a lie, she shouted, desperately trying to deny the truth. I sighed and looking directly at her said, You heard him. That's the truth. Joaquin will no longer live off me. He's already received his eviction notice. He has 1 week to leave the house, I concluded. Joanne turned to Joaquin, interrogating him relentlessly. As the truth spilled out, her shock only deepened. She tried a different tactic, her tone pleading. Please, she begged me. Don't leave Joaquin, don't stop helping us, we need you. I laughed, shaking my head. A month ago, you despised me. Now you want my help? Over the next week, both Joaquin and Joanne continued their relentless appeals, apologizing and begging me to reconsider. However, I stood firm. When the week elapsed, I ordered Joaquin to leave my property. If you don't, I warned him, I'll involve the police. Reluctantly, he packed his belongings and moved in with Joanne. Later, Margaret informed me of their attempts to seek money from her, which she adamantly refused. I blocked their numbers and instructed my husband to communicate through a lawyer. Our separation proceeded smoothly, as Joaquin lacked the financial means to contest it in court. Eventually, I heard they were being evicted from Joanne's apartment due to months of unpaid rent. Cut off from Margaret's support, they resorted to couch surfing at relatives' places, facing uncertain prospects. Meanwhile, I focused on rebuilding my life and embracing contentment on my own. I vowed not to fall into anyone's trap again, hopeful that I would find my true soulmate in the future.